On the 13th of November. I'm calling the Raleigh Transit Authority meeting to order today. We have quorum at the table. I will start with introductions all the way down on my left. Ms. Johnson, do you want to start?
Nadra Johnson.
Christian Daniels.
Latanya Williams.
Jennifer Truman.
Leo Suarez.
Awesome. First things, of course, are looking at our October minutes and action summary. Did I have any discussion on that, or are we ready to make a motion to approve? We only got 5 people today. Someone's got a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. A second.
Motion by Mr. Suarez and second by Mr. Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. None opposed. So we passed the minutes. And then do we have any revisions or additions to today's agenda? Mr. Walker?
Yeah, just wanted to have a conversation about our December meeting, committee meeting, and the full board meeting. So whenever you think that would be appropriate to add.
Okay, let's do that. Maybe actually like with committee reports, because I think it may depend on committee work. Does that work for everyone? Seeing nods. Okay. We have a few minutes before 4 when we have public comment. I think we have people signed up today. Awesome. And so we'll talk through, we'll get back to public comment at 4 and we'll talk through the advocacy opportunities is the next agenda item. Anyone have any events either that they attended in the last month or that are upcoming that they're excited about related to transit? I know Mr. Teague took on the TPAC meeting for us this past month, so we'll have to hear from him in the committee. Ms. Johnson?
I was going to attend the next TPAC meeting.
Awesome. Thank you for taking that one on. If staff can just make sure she gets the info for the TPAC meeting.
I believe TPAC in November
On the
was
20th.
canceled.
Was it canceled?
Is that right?
It would be Thanksgiving Day, I think.
No, it's on the 20th.
Yeah, the project development committee will meet, but I believe the TPAC is canceled.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll keep you in the list for the next one. Do we know if they'll meet in December yet?
They will. Yes.
Okay. So let's keep that one on our calendars for us then. Anyone else? I know we have several like BRT open houses coming up. I'm excited to go to the Southern BRT one next week. I didn't make it to the last one.
I think I'll be at that. That's on the 17th. So
Yes.
I should be able to make that.
That one's at my favorite community center. So, anyone else? I got to ride a gold bus when I wrote to the state fair. That's my other advocacy opportunity. That was really exciting. All right, so the next thing then we're just moving into staff items. Do we have time to go through that before public comment?
We certainly can start it, and if you'd like to pause, we can do that at 4.
Okay, let's do that.
So we have Sean Abrams listed as the the staff. He is unfortunately out sick today, so I'll be introducing Miss Ann Steedley with Planning Communities. Her firm has, I believe, done all 3 of the ADA survey and reports that we have performed since, I think, 2016, 19, and then again in 2025. And she's going to give us a report out on the results from that survey.
And where do I get the presentation up from?
Hit the arrows, it should be there.
Okay, down button on the keyboard. Oh, okay. All right, yes. And as David mentioned, we're here today to talk about the 2025 Go Raleigh Access Customer Survey. And there were previous surveys in, I think, 2015 and 2019. We'll talk a little bit about like the trends from that. And we actually did this work in conjunction with Cambridge Systematics, who is the prime on the contract, which actually goes through Capital Area MPO for some of these services in recent years. But to jump into it very quickly, the goals of this year's survey, which reflected a lot of similarity to previous surveys, are to really gauge that customer satisfaction, understand some of the behaviors and ridership that you have, the perception of that service, and customer needs and characteristics. The survey also was conducted for a random sample, just to point that out, when riders were calling in or emailing to schedule rides over a 3-day period in May. So doing this survey also allowed us to compare results to those prior 2 surveys and to expand the baseline for future planning efforts. There have been some things that have come out from past surveys that Go Raleigh Access actually has integrated into actions that have been taken that have continued to improve that customer service. And so that's really focused on making sure that continue to assess and make recommendations for improving this critical transportation service that people ride on a monthly, weekly, or even daily basis in many cases. So the process to develop the survey, for those who are really interested in digging into survey methodology, there's more. There's a whole survey methodology memo. But it is a telephone random sample survey. We also supplemented that with a random sample of emails that were sent in as well. We did have more people participate in the email survey. In 2019, we had introduced that, but it was a very limited amount. There were a few more that took that this year. Callers who were randomly sampled were asked if they wanted to participate by call center staff and then forwarded to a surveyor if they agreed to participate by phone. And the methodology for emails was similarly randomly sampled. The project team also, in developing the survey, attended the April 17th Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disability meeting. The group was always interested in the survey. They had a lot of good comments. They shared some feedback on the survey, and there were some changes made to the survey at that time. And then the survey was pilot tested the very end of April, beginning of May, and minor adjustments were made before conducting the full survey. So an overview of the survey is that there were 34 questions conducted using a SurveyMonkey platform to enter in. Again, we're talking to people on the phone, but we're entering the information in. So we have a structured way to go through the questions. There's skip logic for questions that don't apply. Makes it streamlined for those who are participating in the survey, and follow-on questions only are asked when they're applicable. It was conducted during your usual 8:15 to 4:45 hours for Go Raleigh Access call-ins for scheduling rides, and it would happen when someone was calling in to make a trip request, or via email they were sending in a trip request, or even submitting a trip dispatch request via your form online. It was administered between May 19th and 21st, and the online survey remained open until May 22nd, just in case people were still filling that out. It was translated into Spanish, and there were call center representatives, both within your team and our side, able to administer the survey in Spanish as needed, but I don't think that happened this year. When you look at your customer database in April, there were 2,337 customers listed, and to achieve the 90% confidence interval, we needed at least 67 unique survey responses, and we exceeded that by completing 88 total surveys, 79 by phone, 9 of those were done by email. So in terms of the ridership profile, the most Go Raleigh Access customers are seniors, and the majority are retired. 3/4 are age 55 or older, and 52% are over age 65, so more than half are over age 65. 70% of riders, most riders are using a mobility device or aid of some sort. Respondents could select multiple devices. Of those who used mobility devices, the most common was a cane, 41%, a walker, 36%. These numbers are actually quite similar to your ridership in 2019. There were respondents who reported using a manual wheelchair, 11%, and a motorized wheelchair or scooter at 15%. And ridership is also heavily African American and nearly 2/3 female. In terms of income and employment, most customers have low incomes. Over half, or 63% of survey respondents who provided household incomes, because remember, there are questions that are being declined. We have some questions people are not responding to, but more than half, 63%, had income below $25,000. That was pretty similar to 2019 when it was 64%. And for those who provided their employment status, most reported not being employed, 14% being unemployed, or receiving disability benefits without employment, and almost half, 48%, report being retired. 61% are living in households with no individual employed at all, either full-time or part-time, which is also similar to 2019. Customers rely on Go Raleigh Access in many cases because they lack alternative options for transportation. 83% report living in zero-car households, which was actually the identical amount in 2019. Respondents who use other modes of transport, 28%, are getting their transportation from family or friends. The most common reason for using Go Raleigh Access is medical appointments, as you can see on the slide, more than half. The next most common response was to a place of employment at 21%. These numbers are, again, those are similar to 2019 figures. The vast majority of respondents, 90%, are using Go Raleigh at least once weekly. More than a third of respondents are using it 5 times a week, and then falling there in the middle, what you see on the slide is 2/3 are using it for at least 3 trips a week. So people are really depending on this service. The people that we talk to are using the service on a very frequent basis. These frequencies are actually a little bit higher than in 2019, suggesting that either Go Raleigh Access is serving more frequent riders than before, the profile has changed a little bit, or maybe effective at attracting more trips from the riders that you have, people using the service they were using more frequently. And customers who've been using it for a year or more are using it more frequently overall. So the longer they ride, the more frequently they're riding. So what did our customers have to say? I want to check the time first, just make sure I'm not eating into the... Okay, so program performance. This is an area, of course, that Go Raleigh Access is always, Sean and the staff were always very interested in seeing the feedback and seeing these areas, as was the case in 2019. Overall feedback from customers on the program performance was very positive. 85%, we want to point out, were very satisfied with the courtesy and the knowledge of the reservation staff. That's a really great number. And as we see here, that goes across different areas. 82% of respondents rated the overall service as excellent or good. 83% responded that the ride reservation process was excellent or good. And then I mentioned the courtesy figure. These numbers are all fairly close to what they were in 2019. The ease of application process is one area that we just want to mention was improved from 2019 at 68% to 76% rated as excellent or good in 2025. This does reflect some specific changes that the agency took to make the application process just a little bit more accessible. So we see that reflected in the survey data. In a few slides, we're going to share some areas of improvement that customers noted in the open comments. Here on this page, the lowest bar for performance was for ease of changing reservations. It's still at 70% rated excellent or good. The level had fallen a little bit from 2019, and we understand that that may be also due to some software changes that may explain a little bit of difference in the customer experience, but it's just something to be aware of and to work towards. Most customers are using taxis in some form, and customers who want those services are able to get them as they report in their feedback. 89% are using taxis, 40% using taxis only, 49% using taxis or vans. The sense of needing to use vans due to a lack of alternatives or a lack of a wheelchair-accessible taxi was not widespread. Only one customer using a wheelchair or scooter reported having tried or failed to book a wheelchair-accessible taxi. So 11% of riders are showing as using only vans. So remember on our final slide, we just summarized some of those general comments that came in through the open feedback. In the free response comments, there was feedback that the initial reservation process is working very well. However, that process of changing reservations was an issue that staff has shared that has been recognized and came out in the survey as well. There are some issues corresponding with that our survey showed that 24% of respondents lacked regular internet access. So there's just some things going on as well on the technology side within the ridership, as well as just the change in software in the process. Some customers specifically noted on-time performance issues with van or taxi services, and consistency for providers and drivers. Again, we're just sharing some of the comments that were there. Other comments touched on the desire to continue to expand the types of vehicles or the areas served. So that is kind of just a high-level overview of the survey findings. There's more detail that if you want to dive into, there was a full report shared with staff. The appendix goes question by question, and you can look into all of those. But we want to take any questions, could be after the public comment if needed.
I think we'll try to do them now. I think, does anyone have questions on the survey? Mr. Teague is not here, or I'm certain you would have quite a few questions.
Yes.
I have one.
Go ahead.
So with the communication or on time, is that, you said the reservation's going out, but like say if I have a pre-planned reservation and I'm waiting and I get like, say the text message say it'll be here in 30 minutes, but now an hour has passed, is that part of the online reservation or is that part of the new technology where there's a
So I think in
issue?
terms of the survey questions, that would probably have shown up in some of the feedback questions on the type of service in that reservation process. The one that was a little bit lower was ease of changing your reservation. So that's more about if I've scheduled a ride and I want to change something about it, the destination, the timing, or something like that. There's more to it now, or the software change has caused that to be a little bit different than it used to be. You used to be able to just call, and now there's an app associated with that, so you're making those changes. It's just a little bit different of a technology hurdle to overcome when you're changing your reservation.
So is it a new app to change or is it within the same app?
David, do you want to talk a little bit about this app aspect?
So the ease of changing the reservation question in our interpretation is caused by the change in software. So in 2019, we did have software, but there was no tracking capabilities. So if a client wanted to make a change to their trip, they could simply call their taxi driver direct and say, hey, instead of going to Wegmans, I want to go to the Walmart. And in theory, they really shouldn't be doing that, but they could.
Right.
It was a direct call. We would get an invoice from the taxi that just says whatever the original trip was, and they would get paid for it. Today, if you want to make that same change, you must call the dispatch office, and that trip change has to be recorded in this system, because when that driver picks them up, kind of like an Uber or a Lyft trip, the driver has to click a button in the software that says, I've picked you up, and I'm going to start my trip. And then there's GPS tracking that shows exactly where you went. And if it doesn't show you going to the location that's booked in the software, the taxi's not going to get paid because he did not perform the trip as scheduled. So the client now has to make that change themselves by calling dispatch and just going through that process. So it's a little bit more cumbersome for the client, but the service itself is not set up for same-day changes. You book your trips today. We've got 1,100 to 1,200 trips that we have to schedule at 5 o'clock today that have to happen tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And if your trip is scheduled to be picked up at 2 o'clock and you want to change it to 4 o'clock and you still want to stay on your same taxi with your same driver, if he's got another 4 o'clock trip, that's a problem. So just think, I've got 1,200 trips, and if 600 people want to change their trips, that just creates chaos. So the service itself is not set up for same-day changes. So just having to make a change in and of itself is going to be somewhat challenging, because you get through to the dispatch and he says, well, you can't go with that taxi because he's completely booked on all of his cars. So you would have to take a different taxi provider, which they may not want. So that's going to seem difficult because they can't get the taxi they want, but it's because they're making a change. So just some of that process that they're having to go through now is what we feel like has kind of helped bring those numbers down.
And it had a reduction, a little over 10% reduction from the feedback on the last survey, but at 70%, I mean, it's, in hearing that, and that was more detail than I had understood completely, but in hearing that, I mean, I think it's understandable that about 10% of folks would experience that change and have feel less positively about that. So, I mean, there's opportunities there for continued rider education and understanding the system as well.
So going back to my initial question, so I guess there was no question that kind of covers, like, if I got a confirmation as a delay of.
So to that question, you had a pickup scheduled at, let's say, 4:30, and for whatever reason, the trip is going to be late by 45 minutes or even an hour. I don't think we have a specific question for that, but there is a question about the overall
Service. That would show up in the
and
service.
we got an 85% excellent good in that category. So that's kind of where I think that question would get responded. If you're consistently getting that kind of service where every trip we're 45 minutes to an hour late, you're not going to give us an 85. You're probably going to give us something much less than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think anecdotally we hear more about on-time performance reliability than any other issue, like in terms of anecdotes that get to us. What is the schedule that the next surveys will happen on? Like, does this, I know we had weird stuff during COVID, so like, is this supposed to happen every year or 5 years, or what is the actual schedule that we do this?
Our fixed route survey was supposed to be an annual survey, and I think we're doing one this fall, maybe in the next few weeks. And we've decided to take that to a every 2-year cycle, so we'll probably do the same thing for the ADA's access survey.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're a little past 4 o'clock, but we will switch back to public comment. I don't have the sheet. Oh, you have it.
So we did receive an email this afternoon with an attachment, and we're asked to submit that as part of the public comment. So that was sent out to all board members earlier this afternoon. I believe our speaker today is going to speak on that that attachment that was in that email, if you've had a chance to look at it. Yeah.
Okay, so the public comment from Dylan Scallon, if I said that correctly. Come on up. And thank you for bringing your kiddo.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the distraction.
I have 4, you're great. My kids have sat in this room for longer hours than they would have liked to.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi. We've got a snack, too, to hopefully
Totally.
hold us over for a little bit. But yeah, my name's Dylan, and I'd love to speak a little bit more on the attachment that I sent over. I moved here to study architecture. I got my master's from NC State a couple years ago, and I've been into like public transportation and planning and stuff like that since then. And so I've had this idea for a while and started doing a little bit more research about a year ago. And maybe about 8 months ago, I spoke to Council Member Melton, and I spoke to Sick Hutchinson, and I've just been trying to figure out how can we bring more reliable downtown transportation to connect all of these nodes of development from Ironworks into downtown, like Glenwood South and around Union Station in the Warehouse District, over to Dix Park, over to this proposed downtown South development. And I noticed that we have these existing rail right-of-ways that crisscross through downtown, but they're only used for the occasional Amtrak, and freight trains. And so I started looking around at precedents and found a couple of other cities across the country, namely in New Jersey with the River Line, that use these light rail style trains on freight tracks. They share the tracks, which is another advantage that we have here with them being owned by the state for the most part. And so I put together this concept of, how can we bring off-street mass transit that doesn't take 20 to 30 years to implement, because when we get to that point, it's going to be too late, and we're going to be looking ahead at what we need at that point, and then that's going to take another 30 years. And then I even looked at smaller precedents like this platform that was constructed for the Amtrak stop at the NC State Fair. I mean, it's a concrete slab. I can't imagine that took too much time to get approved and poured, and it works great for its purpose 1 week out of the year. Why not, instead of looking at these past precedent or feasibility studies that we've done and we've seen done all across the country, spending years and millions of dollars, why not do a real-time project? Put these small investments into pouring a couple concrete platforms. Reach out to other cities like this transit line in New Jersey. They're using diesel-powered trains. They don't have the infrastructure for these catenary wires and electric lines. Can we not lease a couple of these from around the country and bring them in and do a real-time study?
You can finish your thought.
I'm sorry?
You can finish your thought if you want.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't have the expertise to know what the roadblocks are, and that's why I've come to you guys, because I also can't be the one to execute it. So I figured I've reached the point where I'd like to pass this idea on and put it in the ether.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. Thank you for coming and sharing, and I always love a good precedent study. This is the kind of thing I think that gets all the folks at this table excited, and I think we are also much more used to knowing exactly what all the roadblocks are. And for the sake of time in the meeting today, I think we won't go through that. I do think that there are a lot of potential small-scale things that the Wake Transit Plan allows us to do, and what really the way that takes place is that we set out a vision and then we ask them if we can do it, and then we ask about 1 billion people if we can do it, and it goes through a whole process during that. But I do think that we're at a point with the Wake Transit Plan and the new revisioning that they just did that there's a lot of thought into what different alternatives look like that aren't totally out of line with what you're suggesting, which I think is why other folks that have been in local government were also excited about it. But yeah, I think one thing that we could probably do, Mr. Walker, I don't know if staff can do this. I'd certainly be happy to do it. Is just pull some of the things that are already happening that are in this lane, like kind of in this direction, and help update you. And there are ways to plug into that work, especially for someone who really cares about rail and enough to bring your kid out here. So go ahead.
I just had I read over it earlier, and I think it's excellent thought and everything to it. So what would be if there was one of those things that could get accomplished, which one do you think would be most important to you or the area that you live in? Like if you had to pick one that could be done, which?
Well, I think that it's a big priority for the city right now. You see the Downtown Raleigh Alliance talking a lot about this link to Dix Park, to downtown. And it exists. There is a line, I don't know how many freight trains run on it, if any, that goes right past the farmer's market and takes you straight to Union Station. I think you could put one of these small diesel-powered passenger trains there. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have been to Dix Park since the Play Plaza opened. It's crazy to get in and out of there. Pretty much any day of the week. There's cars everywhere, and the whole park has seen so much growth. We drove through the other day, and I was like, is something going on? No, it's like people are just out walking all over the park. And it's so difficult to get there unless you're coming in by car or one of the few, bus or I think they have like little smaller routes that run around the park now. So I think that would be a starting point because it's already getting a lot of attention, and I think buying a couple of trains to run between those two existing points on existing tracks would be much more affordable than building this gigantic pedestrian bridge over properties that we don't even own or what was the other one that I saw, like these cable cars and
The
I
gondola,
love all the
yeah.
ideas, but I think that there's like more practical solutions that we just haven't fully fleshed out.
Did anyone else have questions? Thank you for coming today, Dylan. I'll be in touch. And then, I don't know, Mr. Walker, do you think there's some staff support to be able to send at least what this relates to in the Wake Transit Plan?
We can certainly send some links to various websites where the Wake Transit Visioning Plan lives, and then the upcoming bus and 10-year bus and capital plan, and as well as rail, and it will be in that 10-year plan. So we can send you those links and engagement opportunities and just additional places to study up on and get you that additional info.
Yeah, that's helpful. It's helpful to know where to take info to. But yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Did we have other public comment? That's the only one? Okay. I love a good train public comment. I love buses, but trains are fun. Let's see. Committee reports are next. Route didn't meet.
No, we did not.
Okay.
But I know you want to bring up the December discussion.
Oh, yes, sorry. I put it in my notes and then I skipped over it.
That's okay.
December meeting for the full board or the committees. Are we talking about both? Let's do reports first and see. Yeah, let's do that. See what everyone is up to. Who is here that attended the Finance and Policy Committee meeting?
I did it with Mark not here. There's not much to report, and correct me if I'm wrong.
We do have one action item on the holiday schedule. We have a slide for that if you want to. We can put that up. So, you want me to take that? Sure. Yeah, so recently the Finance and Policy and then the RTA Board adopted a holiday policy. And part of that policy involves posting our schedule for the next year in November, December. So this is the holiday schedule to be observed in calendar year 26. Finance and Policy did review and approve this and pushed it up to the full board for approval.
Okay. So that's coming basically from committee as a motion. So is there a second to approve the holiday schedule?
I second.
All those in favor of approving the 2026 holiday schedule as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Cool. So that passes unanimously with those present. Anything else on that we need to do? I think Finance and Policy said they'd look at that each fall essentially for the coming year to make sure.
Correct. And then the kind of part two to that holiday policy was taking a look at ridership on all of the holidays to see if there is a potential need to potentially change or add or
Well, that would be
remove
their
the
task for
holidays.
next
Right.
October essentially.
Right.
Okay. As long as we keep that on track, then I think we're good. Were there other items coming back out? I know they're reviewing several policies, but are there other items coming out of Finance and Policy this month?
No, not this month. We're waiting for the city's final.
Speak into the mic,
We're
sorry.
waiting for the city's final comments on some of the minor changes we requested.
Okay. All right, so we'll hear more about those policies at a future meeting. And then marketing?
Yeah, marketing did meet, had a quick meeting. We talked about some metrics. Continuing on with this influencer content, it's definitely working. We're definitely seeing more click-throughs to the website, probably over double before this started, so that's great. So we finished up hopefully you all saw the content from Raleigh Food Trap, and it's either out there now. Experience Raleigh is doing some more content. Staff's definitely giving them feedback on highlighting different routes and definitely using the word frequency a lot. Make sure to mention that things are frequent. So that's great. Went over State Fair and those metrics. We had about over 16,000 riders in 10 days, which is pretty good. And then we kind of we did go over the bus advertising and that whole program and how it kind of works at a high level. We are getting a new vendor starting January 1st. Street Level Media is going to handle kind of the inventory, the ad sales, and installing and removing some of the ads on the buses. With staff approval, of course, they will review everything that's submitted, and that's about it.
It's cool to hear with the State Fair ridership. I was actually going to ask about that. 16,000 riders. And then what is the funding structure for those? Because I know that the ticketing is different for them. So is that revenue for us?
Generally, I've not seen the final numbers for this year, but generally, when we operate the fair, the revenues that we bring in typically pay for the cost of the service, so it's a break even.
Okay, gotcha. Extra buses, extra time. Okay. It's good to hear on the influencer stuff. And I'm interested in seeing, as finance and policy goes through code of conduct and like some policy things that will then need to come back to marketing, like how that plays into the on-bus advertising, the inside the bus advertising. Just to put that on your radar. Okay. It's almost out of finance and policy. All right. So then we should talk about what's on everyone's plate for next month and whether or not we should take a December holiday from meetings. What's the thought there, David?
Yeah, staff have reviewed, the items in all three committees, and outside of the two policies there that are still having some review by our city attorneys, those two could potentially be action items in December if we needed them to be. We don't feel like either of those are critical, and so if the board wanted to cancel the meetings in December and take a little break, we certainly could do that and then resume work in January.
Is anyone opposed to taking a break in December?
No.
Would that put us meeting? I think the January schedule is funky. Did we already resolve that? Because the 1st is on a Thursday. I just want to double check that we have that covered while we're here making changes.
Could we get the January dates like, a couple weeks before the end of the year?
Let's see. So the January meetings, it's a good point of topic. Route committee would be on December 30. Mm-hmm. Finance and policy would be on the 31st, and then marketing would be on the 1st, which we won't be open. So if you wanted to push the committees and then the full board meeting back 1 week, we could certainly do that and have the committees on the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then the RTA on the 15th. We would have to check to see on availability for this room. Worst case scenario, we could potentially meet down at the Pool Road facility in our large conference room down there if it's not available.
I think let's plan to do that. I don't want us to take a break from a not holiday day to then have to meet on holidays. In January.
Was it January 15th a holiday, or was it the 19th?
The 15th shouldn't be a holiday.
When is Martin Luther King holiday? Is that
On
the
the Monday,
19th?
It's on the
19th.
Monday, but I'm not sure if he was ever Monday or the 15th.
Yeah, it'd probably be on the 19th
19.
if somebody. Yep, I'm getting head nods. Yeah, so the Martin Luther King holiday would not impact the 15th.
Yeah, that's why I was confirming.
Yeah, normally they're closer.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would not meet in December for committees or board, and we would meet a week into January
The first
on the
week in
second and third week in January,
Yeah,
the
so
first full week.
route committee would be on January 6th, finance and policy January 7th, marketing January 8th, and then the full board meeting would be on the 15th. And if you wanted to make a motion and approve that, then we can get that information out to all the members and get our calendars updated.
I move that we move our next official meetings as just described by Mr. Walker.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's been done. Okay, that brings us to the general manager's report.
Hello. Okay. All right. So there's not a lot to report in terms of the operators. We're still doing those same recruiting and retention activities. I am pleased to announce that the Raleigh location for RATP Dev in the USA received the second quarter lowest turnover rate for the company, and that was the second one that we've received this year. So for 2 quarters, we had the lowest turnovers in terms of operators. So we need a head count of 263. We are at 249. We have a class every week. And we currently have 17 individuals in training. And as I said, we start a new class every week. September was our lowest missed trips, I guess, this year. We had 28 missed trips. We did see an uptick in October, but that was related to some events that we had operationally. On-time performance has been pretty steady. It went up slightly above August. We're still doing the same initiatives. I'm just trying to reach the goal. There's not really much change in terms of our constant counseling of the operators and just evaluating the routes. PM completion, that went back up in September. We used an outside consultant to help us with that. In addition to that, we've increased our mechanic headcount, so we're almost fully staffed. One of the things that we think is helping us with getting more qualified applicants is that we adjusted the hiring wages for our B&C and top-out wages for our B&C mechanics. Any questions for me?
Did folks have questions on any of the metrics, either that are presented here or that were in the backup?
Great improvement.
Yeah, and congrats on the turnover rate. We like to see it.
Thank you.
Happy operators make for happy customers and more buses.
Yep.
I know there's been a lot of chat about security issues at the last, some operators had come to council meetings. Is there any security update that we could get today?
Just that we're continuing to work on it. RATP Dev, as a company, hired an outside consultant to come in and take a look at some things in conjunction with our security director. We've been meeting with the city and RPD and the security to try to address some of the concerns as well as with the operators. So we have a plan that we're working toward, the main thing being just coordination amongst all of the parties and the stakeholders involved. So we think that we have a good move forward plan on that and assessing the issues. Some of the immediate kind of low-hanging fruit items we've already addressed in terms of employee lots and things that we can do, just really simple things around like architecture, plants, high visibility, improving the lighting, looking at camera systems. Some of those things we've already taken a look at and addressed.
I'll just second what Tanya said. On Monday this week, our transportation director, our assistant city manager, our police chief, I believe, was on the call, as well as several corporate executives from our ATP Dev, including Tanya's local team, had a Teams call 4 o'clock Monday evening, and the topic was safety and security at the facility, at Go Raleigh Station, on board the buses. So it is a topic that has a lot of attention right now. Obviously, we're all concerned and want to ensure that we are providing the safest environment and securest environment for not only our operators, but for our riders. And the consultant that Tanya mentioned, I believe her first day boots on the ground are actually going to be Thanksgiving week. She'll be coming in on Monday. They're interviewing lots and lots of stakeholders, to include drivers, our ATP Dev management, city staff, collaboration meetings with RPD, to put together a very aggressive scope to get us a document, hopefully by the end of the calendar year, to kind of give us at least something to look at and start working towards to provide a hopefully safer and secure service.
Prior to, last month, 2 months ago, they were saying there were some action items. Are there some things that have been implemented already based off the last meeting you guys had?
Yeah, we've worked with Raleigh Police, chief and the local district captains, and they now actually have their officers riding our buses. We gave them a interactive map of all of our high-frequency network routes, and we actually gave them, presuming they started from the Go Raleigh station, where would be a good point to ride that service out to where they could cross the street and then jump on the next bus riding back inbound. So they're not typically going to ride the whole route out and back. That changing buses allows them to be seen by more people, by more drivers. So they are doing that now multiple times a week. I can't tell you the exact number because they change. We later found out that they're actually going to park their cars at some of those points we gave them along the route and start their trip there, ride down to Go Raleigh Station, and then back. That provides additional visibility at a bus stop with a police cruiser being left there on site to just provide a more secure feeling for anybody that may be boarding from that bus stop. So that's just one of the things that we've put together and gotten successfully started with our work with the police force. There's another meeting. I believe it's next Thursday. The Downtown Raleigh Alliance has a standing, I believe it's monthly or might be every other month meeting where their ambassadors, RPD, our Capitol Special Police, there's 2 or 3 other hired security forces by different departments or agencies, and so they get together once a month or every other month and have a conversation just about what's going on, what are you hearing, what are you seeing. The one next week, we've asked the chief of police to come in, and we're just kind of continuing to raise the level of those meetings and conversations, so that the awareness continues to be heightened.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? I think I just want to say that, like Finance and Policy Committee has been working on the Code of Conduct, and it'll be going to marketing for how to get those things out. I think with a consultant coming in, making recommendations for security-related things, I think there's a lot of overlap in the kind of thought space. And so if folks from RATP Dev could come to January or February Finance and Policy Committee and have some advocacy back and forth and discussion on those things, I think it would just help everything move along swifter. and then also give us the chance to know more. So I know at least me, I get asked about how safe is it to ride the bus almost every time I mention the bus. And I'm always like, it's great. I take my kids. So what's your problem? But I think there are real things that people are concerned about. And the more that we know, the more that we know what's going on and can tell what it is you guys are doing, not because we want to micromanage y'all, because that's certainly not our goal, but so that we can advocate and let everyone know what we're doing to, together to improve the system, is very helpful from us on an advocacy perspective to support the work. Does that help?
Yes, that's helpful. And I know the drivers are anxious to see kind of that code of conduct policy, because we've mentioned that as well in some of our conversations. But yeah, we'd be happy to share some of the things that we're doing with the group.
Yeah, I think the committee's done good work. It's obviously out to the lawyers to decide exactly where every word should be. But updating it, since it hadn't been updated in several years, will, I think, help everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think next is just concluding remarks. Do we have anything else on the agenda today? So that would be time for authority members to bring up other things that are on their mind, or staff. Don't everyone jump at once.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
I do have a question. And I see our security person is here. Do we have an update of the de-escalation classes or programs? Has that been completed by all staff? Mm-hmm. Has it started or not complete?
I guess I wasn't paying attention. What was the real question?
So you had suggested, if you want to come up, I don't want to, but you had suggested talking about the de-escalation classes that you was implementing with Go Raleigh's, not staff, but operators. I was just wondering, you had talked about that in August, and I was saying that at least should be complete by December. So I was just wondering, what's the status of that?
And thank you. Forgive me. I was kind of dozing just a little bit, so forgive me. I have to be honest with you. Yes, de-escalation it's in a couple of phases. As phase one, which was the introductory phase, it started last year, and I'm still running that through the new hires, as well as the other one that started this year, which was our phase two. Phase two is more about self-awareness. It builds in more techniques about how you start with de-escalating yourself. And so I'm also looking to start looking at other phases as well. So I don't have a total number, but I'm always running those classes. This past week, when we have a new class to start, I always go in and I do a 2-hour block with phase one and phase two. Then I'm always doing some kind of remedial with other operators when a supervisor or someone identifies someone that might have a gap in some of the de-escalation training that they had before, and I'm running those classes as well. So I just finished and concluded doing de-escalation for all of Access last week. They usually try to do it in one whole week. That they run me from early in the morning all the way to 7 to about 8 o'clock that night. So I do that. I did that last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, for Access. So I'm completed there. And so now the task is always over here, over at Pool Road, is just trying to work with schedules and getting people in at the right time, because they have a different kind of setup than Access, where Access is easier to try to go over and do them in one big swoop for a whole week, running 3 classes throughout the week up till late at night, versus over at Pool Road, which I'm always just constantly just putting the training out there, making sure we get enough people to come to the classes. And if it's just one that shows up, then I'll make sure that I still run them through the de-escalation.
So out of the 200 and, how many operators we have? 217, 249? Out of the 249, how many have completed the de-escalation class?
I don't have that data, that number with me right offhand.
Okay.
But I'll make sure that next time we get it, or before that.
So we
what
probably
I'll
won't
do-
meet, so if you
Yeah,
can email
I'll make sure
Jennifer
that you get
and
it.
I
Yeah.
by the end of this month, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And also, let's not make it just towards the operators, because there is concern non-operators need de-escalation classes. So,
The training was not developed, the platform was not developed for just operators. The beginning of the class, the first slide says for employees and staff.
so I'm saying, you only mentioned operators. I'm just making sure that it's made available for everyone, that it's mandatory. Because like I spoke to you on the side, I just want to make sure that we're not targeting the operators. They're not a target. And I don't want them to feel like we're focusing just on them. The de-escalation is for everybody. So we need to make sure that we are communicating this to everybody.
And I just want to make sure I'm clear as well. It's definitely not a target, even though the concern was making sure that we were equipping operators. But when I put the platform together after discussing it with management, I realized that de-escalation is something that everybody needs. And so when I put out the training, whoever decides to attend, that's who attend. And unfortunately, it's only been operators. So hopefully I can say that clearly so you understand that it is open to everyone.
But it's not mandatory?
It is mandatory for operators, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. That's where I was going. Thank you.
Do we have other questions? Okay, I think I'll just say this, repeat what I said to Ms. Dupree, which is that, our job as a body is not to micromanage how y'all make things safer, but it is a chief concern for us and the people that we talk to. So I think if we can help in any ways, if we can look at policies, if we can look at how we market, how we communicate to riders, how other agencies in the city might need a nudge to come talk to you, certainly bring that back through staff and through these meetings to let us know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your support. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you for all of the things you're trying to increase and implement, safety-wise, de-escalation-wise. I think it's going to be, over time, be really good. So I appreciate you guys' effort.
Thank you, sir.
Did anyone else have concluding thoughts, remarks? I asked my state fair question already.
Just one comment. And I forgot the advocacy part, but in October, myself, you, and Mark attended the Raleigh, hold on, what was it called?
Raleigh Commission for Persons with Disabilities annual banquet.
Yes, October 20th. And so one of our, not ours, but Go Access member actually won an award. So Miss Carla, so I just want to acknowledge her of winning her award, and congratulations, and the banquet was very nice. So thank you, Mark, for the invitation, even though he's not here.
Yeah, in addition to the, the survey coming back that folks have, a high level of customer satisfaction, the community did nominate one of the customer support folks, Ms. Carla, for an award for her support for the community with disabilities. So
And some of the writers there appreciate her, so they do love what you guys are doing. So
absolutely.
thank you.
All right. Well, if there's no other remarks, then I am going to adjourn the meeting at 4:40, less than an hour.